It was the kind of rain that swallowed sound, thick and relentless, blurring the edges of the world. Andre Sua, a 34-year-old nurse working the night shift, had seen plenty of long nights in his life, but this one felt different. On his way home, through the curtain of water, under the dim glow of street lamps, he saw her standing alone, drenched to the bone. Arms wrapped tightly around herself like the only thing holding her together. She looked terrified, lost. Without thinking, Andre pulled his car to the side of the road and stepped out into the storm. "You okay?" he called over the roar of the rain. She hesitated, then shook her head. Her voice was barely audible. Trembling as she explained, she'd lost her wallet and phone. She said her name was Emma, a college student. Andre didn't ask many questions. He just offered her a place to stay for the night in his modest apartment. Emma met Isabella, Andre's 7-year-old daughter. Isabella was shy at first, peeking from behind her father's legs, but Emma knelt down, smiled warmly, and asked if she liked teddy bears. By the end of the night, they were sitting together on the couch, coloring like they'd known each other for years. One night turned into two. 2 nights turned into weeks. Emma helped with cooking, folded laundry, even walked Isabella to school when Andre was working. She laughed with them at the dinner table, teased Andre about his overly serious face, and read bedtime stories to Isabella. Andre thought she was just another soul in need, someone down on her luck. I didn't know she was Sophia Whitmore, daughter of Richard Whitmore, heir to a real estate empire worth $200 million. The truth came crashing in 3 weeks later. Not from her, but from a phone call. Andre had just gotten home from work when the phone rang. The voice on the other end was sharp, cold, dripping with malice. "You really thought you could take advantage of my daughter and get away with it?" Richard Whitmore's words hit like a hammer. Andre's grip on the phone tightened. "I'm going to destroy you and your pathetic family." He didn't shout. He didn't need to. The threat was crystal clear. Andre hung up, trying to steady his breathing, but the pounding in his chest only grew louder. Isabella wandered into the kitchen, rubbing sleep from her eyes. "Daddy, who's yelling?" she asked softly. He forced a smile and told her it was nothing. But he already knew life had just changed. In the days that followed, Whitmore's threats began to take shape. Anonymous complaints about Andre's conduct reached his hospital's administration. His bank account froze without warning. Isabella's school called to say her tuition was on hold due to pending legal matters. Even his apartment financing was suddenly under review. Whitmore wasn't just coming after Andre. He was systematically dismantling his life. Piece by piece. Andre, though, was no stranger to being underestimated. He'd grown up in public orphanages, shuffled from one institution to the next. By the age of 5, he'd learned that survival meant paying attention, documenting everything, never trusting a promise without proof. Wasn't paranoia, was protection. So from the first night Emma Sophia had arrived, he'd kept a quiet record of her stay. Not because he suspected her, but because it was habit. Short videos of Isabella laughing with her, recordings of her gratitude when she said she had nowhere else to go, messages she'd written thanking him for his kindness. When Sophia left one morning, leaving only a handwritten note, Andre thought nothing of it. But 3 days later, his life was under siege. His apartment was searched under a suspicious court order. Isabella clung to him, frightened. And yet, even as everything around him collapsed, Andre's expression remained oddly calm. He was already building a defense one Whitmore would never see coming. Then came the visit from Dr. Sandra Martinez, civil rights lawyer Andre had met years ago during a discrimination case at the hospital. She'd heard whispers about what was happening. Sitting at his kitchen table, she laid it out plainly. Richard Whitmore has done this before, more than once. He's ruined careers, destroyed reputations, all to keep people he thinks are unfit away from his family. She slid documents across the table, evidence of teachers, artists, even a Paris acquaintance of Whitmore's daughter, who'd been wiped off the map by legal intimidation and financial strangulation. The pattern was unmistakable. Andre looked at the papers, then at his daughter quietly playing in the corner. There was no fear in his eyes, only resolve. "He doesn't know who he's dealing with," he said softly. What Whitmore didn't know was that Andre had already begun recording every threatening call, every manipulative word. He let Whitmore talk, spilling his arrogance, his prejudice, his belief that money could decide who mattered and who didn't. Andre never interrupted. Every word was fuel. The turning point came one night when Andre's phone rang again. It was Sophia. Her voice was tight, urgent. "Andre, my father is saying horrible things about you. He's planning something. He's going to plant evidence in your house. Drugs, you have to leave." She confessed she'd been secretly recording his conversations, collecting emails, bank transfers, proof of his schemes. From that moment, the game changed. Andre, Sandra, and now Sophia worked together, quietly, carefully. They transformed Andre's apartment into an operation hub, hidden cameras in every room, microphones tuned to pick up the smallest whispers. Isabella stayed safely at Sandra's home at 9:45 one morning. Andre sat in a van 3 blocks away, eyes on a laptop streaming live feeds from his own apartment. 2 men, dressed as maintenance workers, approached the back door with a heavy toolbox. "You sure the big guy isn't home?" one asked as he picked the lock. "Whitmore says he's at work until noon," the other replied, pulling out small plastic packages. Kitchen, bedroom, kids' room, the more obvious the better. Andre's fists tightened. Every second was being recorded, time-stamped, GPS tagged. At exactly 10:05, Whitmore called the police, disguising his voice just enough to sound like a concerned citizen. "Suspicious drug activity at apartment 17 on Maple Street. There's a child in danger." But Sandra had already tipped off internal affairs. The police didn't just find the drugs, they found the 2 men still inside. The hidden cameras streaming everything live to lawyers and media contacts. And when Whitmore's voice on the recordings matched the threats Andre had saved, the noose began to tighten. Detective Morrison's voice over the phone was cold, clipped. "Mr. Whitmore, we need to talk now." When Whitmore tried his usual charm, Morrison cut him off. "You were under investigation for conspiracy evidence, tampering, attempted framing, and more. I suggest you come in voluntarily." Across town, Andre watched as federal agents escorted Whitmore out of his corporate building. Cameras flashing, reporters shouting questions. Sophia called soon after, her voice trembling but relieved. "Andre, I have recordings of at least 10 calls where he planned to destroy people. I have emails, bank records, everything." That evening, Andre and Isabella cooked dinner together, the news playing quietly in the background. The anchor's voice was steady. Billionaire Richard Whitmore, indicted on multiple charges including conspiracy and persecution of vulnerable families. Documents reveal a decade-long pattern of abuse of power. Isabella turned to her father, frowning. "Daddy, is that the man who is being mean to us?" He nodded. "Yes, sweetheart. But he can't hurt us or anyone ever again." She tilted her head. "How did you know it would be okay?" Andre smiled faintly. "Sometimes, when bad people try to hurt good people, they end up hurting themselves. I just helped that happen a little faster." Weeks later, Sandra called with more news. "Andre, do you realize what you've done? He's lost his company. His accounts are frozen and 3 other families are suing him for millions. This is bigger than just your case. It's going to change how people like him operate." Andre stood by the window of his apartment, rain tapping lightly against the glass. He thought back to that stormy night when he'd brought a frightened young woman inside. He hadn't known who she was, hadn't cared. All he'd seen was someone in need. Now, the man who had tried to destroy his life for that act of kindness was facing the ruin of his empire. 6 months later, Andre sat in a new office, sunlight streaming through wide windows. Isabella's laughter drifted in from the hallway. Life wasn't just back to normal, it was better, stronger. And every time he thought of Whitmore, sitting alone in a cell, Andre felt no triumph, no gloating, just the quiet certainty that justice, when pursued with patience, courage, and an unshakable refusal to be broken, can bring down even the mightiest walls. Because in the end, power isn't just money or influence. Sometimes it's the calm voice that says, "I've documented everything." Sometimes it's the knowledge that the truth once revealed can't be buried, no matter how deep the pocket's trying to hide it. Sometimes it's simply a father protecting his daughter, refusing to let anyone decide their worth.